Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining today. We're going to be working on that podcast during this session. And some of the stuff that we worked on the previous session was trying to build our own management system, file asset management system. We're still using Flysystem, but we are going to be handling everything on our own manually outside of the entity. We tried to use a couple of other systems, and they were all doing magic around the entity within Doctrine, and that's not really what I wanted to do. It made things a lot more complicated. Let's look at the database real quick just to get an idea of where we were at. If we look all the way back at pristine media URL, we can see that the content here is saved as Flysystem for the scheme. We have content as the name of the file system, or name of the Flysystem file system, and then we have the path. So here's the path to where the file was uploaded, and then content type and content length. So these things are all coming directly from, actually I need to open the different project. These are all coming directly from the import from our export from our current site. So if we look here, we'll see if there isn't a pristine media URL yet, then we try to get it. So we create a temporary file, we download the information from the existing file. So this would be the media URL, so that we're using the media URL from the export for both the pristine media and the normal media URL. So let's look at that export again. Podcast.io/export. There we go. So here we have just the media URL. So originally we didn't have this concept of like a pristine copy of the audio, but now we have that. So we're using the media URL as a full HTTPS URL to download the content. We download it into temp file, and then we, actually this is just setting up the client. This is where the download actually happens. And then we create a file called pristine media file that's using the content file system. We generate the pristine media path. So that's where we get this, so we get this pretty value /episodes /something / some additional information. And the information we're passing in there is the generate pristine media path, which is a static method on episode. If we look at that, it's using episodes as the prefix, directory prefix. It's transliterating the GUID for the episode, and then adding it under the pristine media directory, and then using the file name without the extension. So we have the same sort of thing for pristine. We have generate media path as well. Generate media path. Yeah, so it's doing the same thing, except it's putting it in /media. Let's double check here to see if the media URL is getting updated correctly now. So the background image, just for completeness sake, the background image is just a standard URL at this point. We're going to update that as a part of this. So the media URL here didn't actually get updated. So let's look and see where that happened. Back to our ingest command. So we set pristine media URL and set media URL. So I'm not sure why this didn't work. So I'm going to, just for the sake of making sure that the database reflects correctly reality, I'm going to run the command again to import this. So we'll do bin console app ingest. Let's see what we get. So it's going to download the pristine media for this episode from this URL. And in theory, it's now updated the database accordingly. So here, all right, so the new version of the code actually sets the media URL correctly. So it's setting the media URL using the media subdirectory. And if we look at the pristine media, we'll see that that's actually the pristine media directory. And let's see if it actually did it. There we go. Okay, so it created pristine media and it created media. So it did that correctly. There we go. So both of them are 20 megabytes. So I'm guessing this is probably pretty safe. All right, so now what I'd like to do is consider doing the same sort of thing for the background image. Let me double check here. Let's make sure that the page loads correctly. It does. The download link is, okay, so this is where things will have to change eventually. Right now, the download link is actually using the Flysystem scheme, so this is not actually correct right now. So what we're going to need to do is change this to use a twig extension that we haven't written yet. But let's take care of the background image first. Also, we can see that the background image currently isn't being stored anyway, both based on this output. We don't see the image, but also we didn't see it outputting anything useful. This is the part that would actually get the URL. So let's add this back in for now and rerun our command. All right, so it's downloading. Now let's reload this. And now we have a background image. So this is a nice solid working state for this particular field, but we're going to go undo all of this because the background image stuff was really, really messy as far as I was concerned. One thing that I'd like to do just to make sure everything is in sync is I want to try to migrate our database back to 0. Let's see if this works. So one previously executed migration, there's not registered. Yeah, so that's not good. So there's a migration that happened that isn't actually possible, but we'll try this. Yes. All right, so let's see what it actually did in terms of database schema now. Error. Okay, so there's no episodes, or there's no thing there. Migrations table has a version. I'm just going to delete this. And let's try to migrate again. So this is something that I don't often do, but anytime you do a console command, you can limit it to the least number of letters that are unique for the command. So this is Doctrine Migrations migrate, which is shortened to this. So I think that might be one of the first times I've done that in any of these sessions. So if it's unclear why that's happening, that's what's happening. So I'm going to run the migrations again from scratch. All right, so these migrations are here. Let's look at the episodes. So that's good. There's no episodes. Media URL is empty. The thing I wanted to see was if we had all of the pristine media types. We don't. Okay, cool. The old version of the schema actually had a bunch of stuff from when we had embedded pristine media. We were using the uploaded file or uploader package, and it did some weird, or it required some things in the database that we then took out of the model. So I think that's why we got that migration warning that there's a migration in there that actually isn't in the code. So I like to do that occasionally just to make sure that one, the rollbacks work, and then two, that I can actually rebuild the database to where we need it to be. So let's see here. Now we can go into our episode and let's just remove everything related to background image. So let's remove anything for Vich. So we don't want this to be uploadable anymore. We don't want background image file. Background image file. We don't need this anymore either. All right, so when we had the pristine media stuff, we still had things based on URL. So let's go to get pristine. There we go. So we still had these URL methods, but in addition, we added a couple of other fields to deal with pristine media as a actual file asset manager file. So this is the code that we're working on building here. So we're just piggybacking on top of background image, or the URL versions of these. So let's copy this because we're going to want to generate a URL. So let's see, set background image. It's a lot of setters and getters. All right, let's do this. It's going to cause an error, but we're going to replace pristine media with background image. Preserve case. There we go. And we'll want to switch this now to background image. All right. And then we need to essentially copy these, and we're going to remove URL. And in response, we're going to return optionally a file asset manager file and set background image. It's going to take this background image. All right. To URL, but we really only want to do this if it has a value. So if it has a value, set it. Otherwise, we'll set it to null. And here we want to do return file asset manager file, create from URL, background image URL. So I think this gets us everything that we had before. So we have new functionality here. Let's go back to our page. It should just crash horribly. Object not found. All right. So let's go ahead and run our command to ingest at least the first episode. File already exists. Here. That's something that I want us to handle somehow, but I'm not going to deal with it right now. Okay. Called the unnamed method set background image file. Okay, this is reasonable because we've changed how background image file works. So this is why we got that issue. Well, this is why we got the issue, because we removed the things from the database without actually removing them from disk. So on future calls, we actually remove the stuff that we need to, but here we don't. So let's see. So background image file, where was that? There we go. So we don't want to set that. We only need to set background image URL, second background image URL to null. We don't need to do storage remove anymore. We should be doing Flysystem Asset Remove, get background image. And we can use this as well. So we're going to use it slightly different. So removing existing pristine media, get background image. There we go. All right, so we're going to remove the existing background image. All right, so we're going to refresh from there. So how we handle this part is going to be different as well. So if this exists, actually, I'll just copy all of this here. So essentially everything from this point on, there were only 2 lines there. So you could argue that this is actually making the code more complex, more code, but I'm fine with that because it's all more clear as far as I'm concerned. I'm going to replace every instance of pristine media to background image and then remove the media file stuff. So a media file and set media URL. Okay. Hey, Joe. Looks like Joe just joined chat. All right, let's see if this works now. Already exists. All right, that's fine. I do need to fix this, though, because this is not good. Essentially what's happening here is that if we actually write the disk, write to the file system, whether it be local or wherever, but we don't save that fact in the entity, so if we don't get to flush, that means that the content has been added to disk, but the object itself doesn't know about it. So that when we try to add it again, it's causing an error. I really thought we had done that before, fixed that. So write from file. I think write itself must be giving the problem. Yeah, assert absent. So there's nothing I can do about that at this point, unfortunately. So I guess I'll leave it for now. What I could do is do similar to what we did up here. And if it exists, we could try to delete it. Apparently you can delete it even if it doesn't actually exist, is what I'm guessing. But anyway, so we brought the code in. What we should see now is background image URL is now one of these cool Flysystem things. Yeah, Joe's saying that seems like an odd default. Yeah, I would just, and that he would just assume it would overwrite. I did too. That was my assumption, but that is not the case, and it's been a lot of fun dealing with that. And like there wasn't even, it doesn't even look like there's an option to force it. Like I thought maybe by clicking into here, I would see that there's a way to do it. Oh, maybe the config does. No, I don't see anything here. It's just assert it's absent. You can't do anything at all about it. If it's not absent, you can't write it. Yeah, it is good. So Joe's saying it's good from a perspective of data preservation. So I do see that, but at the same time, it would be nice to be able to like override that or whatever, because especially with the content that I'm dealing with, that content needs to, I'm going to be changing it quite frequently, which is something I'm going to have to keep in mind, actually. If I have to delete the content before I write the content, that means that if I'm updating my, if I'm actually updating the media content with new ID3 content, and I drop the file, have to upload it, and that takes 30 seconds. That's going to be 30 seconds that any attempts to download that file from like a podcast app, it's not going to be able to get the file. Well, Blade Shatter, well in doubt, Alt F4 and I'm out. Awesome. You could also add a step before saving the entity to check the path for is file. Yeah, so we could probably do some stuff there. This whole ingest thing is sort of, or the import process, I think is probably part of the problem, because this isn't going to happen very often. It's probably not going to happen very often. The other thing that I was thinking I could do is, if we look at the entity episode, let's say the pristine media, I don't care. That should always, I guess it doesn't really matter. But if we have, say, set media or generate media path, I could probably do like a counter here, $index equals 0, and store that. And then as a part of the process that would update this value, could send whatever, like media path, no, media index, pass in media index. This would actually return extension, say, dot, index +1. Something along those lines, so that it would actually, like the next time you upload the pristine media, the media would actually be called, whatever the file name is, -1 instead of -0. And then I could actually have it go back and delete the previous file and then use the new file instead, to swap them over, so that at all times the original file is still on disk. So anything that references the URL that has the index of 0 would still work until I've actually deleted that file. But I think that I'm probably not going to run into that edge case for a while, so I'm not going to actually do anything about it. But it is good to know that this is sort of the default behavior here. Okay, so let's double check, make sure it's all there. All right, now if I go back here, I'm expecting an exception. Yeah, so class episode is not uploadable. All right, so this is where everything that was written previously was using this uploader asset thingy. So let's go to an individual episode. There we go. All right, wow, it went right here. So I'm just going to say URL comes from episode dot background image. And I think this should be an error as well, because it's not going to know how to convert that to a string. Yeah, could not be converted to a string. But I'm just going to do to URL. There we go. So it's not going to give back the correct URL, because it's just not going to. Background image. Yeah, so it's, yeah, so it's using this URL, which is the Flysystem URL, which is not going to be correct. So today we're going to be building a twig extension, which I haven't done yet. So we're going to look at the maker bundle for twig extension and see how far that gets us out of the box. All right, so we just give it the name, twig extension. All right, the argument is missing. The command will ask for the class name. All right, so let's do twig extension. Yeah, Joe's excited about this. All right, so let's check out our Scratch file, because I think I had a name. So we'll do Flysystem managed asset URL. So let's do Flysystem Asset Manager extension. Cool. Here we go. All right, if your filter generates safe HTML, it should add a third parameter. So filter name, this do something. Okay, so now I think what I can do is use a constructor, extends twig extension, construct new. All right, so I don't have to do anything special with it. So what I'm going to want is the Flysystem Asset Manager. Take it as a constructor argument, and then we can just use it. So filter name, I don't think I want to filter though. Twig function. Oh, no, I want, okay. So I don't want to filter, that's right. Both do the same thing, but we'll just do this. What was it called here? There we go. So what this does is it adds the ability to add new twig functions. We're going to do this. We're going to do generate URL. I'm going to rename this to URL, or generate URL. And we'll do return this Flysystem Asset Manager. We're going to assume that the value passed in here is going to be a Flysystem Asset Manager file. Not that. Okay, Flysystem Asset Manager. Thought there was a file? Asset Manager. Oh, it's just called this. I see what happened. All right. I had to rename it because I was using two versions of file. So, okay. So we're going to be passed in a file into this function. So anytime someone does this, which we're going to look at here, we're going to say pass episode background image into Flysystem managed asset URL. And so that's going to be a file. It's going to be passed here, and we'll be able to do Flysystem Asset Manager get URL for the file. So this is a nice way to be able to get access to services and such within the twig layer, because otherwise you have to pass them up somehow. It's probably not a good way to do it. So since this is a twig extension that's generated and managed by the container, we're able to use this to get access to our Flysystem Asset Manager, and it does all the heavy lifting. All we need to do is pass it a file. So this is the benefit of this file being able to be represented by this string, is that it has all of the information it needs to generate the actual URL, provided you can get access to a Flysystem Asset Manager instance. So this should just work. Famous last words. Yes, did not work. All right, so HPS uploads Astrocast.com episodes theater desk. So why did this not work? Site couldn't be reached. Okay. So this is good. This is good. It's not good that I didn't notice immediately that it was wrong, but so we're going to look at services.yaml, and this should be astrocast.test. So this is the other part that needs to be updated a bit. We need to put this into the .env file so that this is configurable. So that's not ever going to work. However, since this is configuration driven and it doesn't have any dependency at all on the code that's or the data that has been written to the DB, we should be able to see it if we reload. We still can't. So now what's wrong? Uploads that app. It's possible I don't have that site secured. No get. Astrocast.test. What happens if I do this? I did a redirect. All right, so, oh, wow. There was nothing right about this at all. Wasn't even the right fake top-level domain. All right, still wrong. Uploads side. This still could be a problem with HTTPS not being supported. Yeah, it's not secure. Okay, so what I can do is just have valet secure that directory, just so that I don't run into this again. Uploads.that podcast and valet secure. And then in theory, it should just work again. And again, famous last words. And while that's happening, let's go to our download link. And right now, we're getting access to the download URL. And we have the media URL. It's kind of... Okay, it's going to take some work. So get download URL. So this is getting the media URL. So what the idea was that we had several ways that we thought that we could get the downloadable content URL. What I want to do now is, before we were just piggybacking on media URL anyway. So what I'm going to do is do the same sort of thing, except we're going to do download URL. We'll do file, because we're going to do Flyos. There we go. Get RSS URL. We're going to do the same thing. So we're going to get the actual values. So we actually want file instances here. And we're going to do this from get media. So we're going to get the actual media instance, file instance. And then we can do get download URL is actually going to be something we don't need. So we're going to find some errors elsewhere. So let's reload this page and it's going to give us an error. All right, so get download URL. So that doesn't exist. So I'm totally fine with that because we need to update it. So we need to use this filter or this function again. So let's do episode, and then we just need media. We don't need the actual URL anymore. For the download link, same thing. We're just going to get download, not the download URL. There we go. And so if we look at the download URL, it's uploads that podcast.test to the media link. So this is getting the rendered version. So what we can do eventually is do some more interesting stuff here. But I think this is going to be fine. So jplayer media URL. Let's do this with, let's name this player. This is actually what we needed. So player, and let's go back into episode. So we want get download, and then get player. I'd probably want to actually change this slightly to do like get player media or get media for player or something along those lines. But I'm just going to name it like this for now, because what ultimately I want to have is when I click on this download, I want the URL to be slightly different, so that we can get stats on when someone has clicked the download link and got the file versus when they've downloaded the file as a part of the player, just so that we can see those things. If I go to the RSS feed, it should be broken now. Oh, it's not. Okay. Oh, that's the live site. So let's see. Object property download URL. Oh, so that's the home page. There we go. So the home page looks different than this page, which is fine. And then let's look at the RSS feed. Ah, so this was actually a direct link to the live site. That's interesting. That's actually a bug. RSS. Yeah, that's a bug. RSS, iTunes. There we go. All right, cool. Now this one needs the RSS URL. XML.twig. Cool. So then we need the Flysystem Asset Managed. All right, so then the XML for here is actually going to be generating, would actually be capable of generating another separate URL that we'd be able to track so that we would know how many podcast apps are downloading the URL directly versus any of the other sources. Right now, of course, it's all the same. So, all right, let's see here. So we have all of those pieces done. We have the background image working correctly. So I think that's all good to go. Now where things will get more fun and interesting will be on the admin side. Yes, because it's not uploadable. All right, so let's go to admin. So we have background image URL and media URL. So these were both things that were, let's see, file property on the list. Because we have these listed here, it's trying to treat them as a certain type. So let's comment these out. Okay, so it's okay with that now. It's just that if we try to use these, it treats them as a certain type. So let's look to see what those types are actually, in case there's something still on there. Let's do media URL. No, it just has a column and background image URL. So there's nothing fancy about background image URL, but we can see. Let's find out where we're using file. Because before we were using file on its own, file size. Yeah, let's see if we can replace this now. Yep, it looks like we can. So that would be good. Cool. All right, so that's one less kind of annoying thing about what we had in this in-between time. So when we do show the, say, the media URL, in the back end, it just shows up as this. What we wanted to do before was have it do something more interesting. So let's do fields. And property is background image URL and file property. Let's remove that. And then let's remove template as well, just to see if this shows up. Okay, cool. So background image URL shows up. All right, so let's do, for our fields, let's go ahead and fill this out a little better. So fields, we'll do number, title, might be all we need to start with here. All right, and then let's add background image, just because I think that it would be handy to be able to see that from here. So background image URL. So let's do something more interesting here. So let's do label background. And then let's just start working with a template. Okay. Okay, file property. CSS, so it's not exist. All right, so let's figure out how they were doing that before. So pristine media file, file property. Did I remove it already? No. No, I didn't. All right, so let's look at easy admin custom field. Define custom options for entity properties. Custom fields. All right. Custom property options. True domain messages. First backend, list search, actions, configuration, creating complex. You know, I'm just going to look at the source code real quick. Okay, so let's see, we've got templating helper, twig extension, adapter. Here we go. Use form fields. Oh, what's the meta? License, yay. All right, so Flysystem, adapter, twig. Doctrine listeners, propel listeners, nope. Form. Form type field. All right, so here we go. So flip on a form type. Okay, so I'm thinking this is what we need to do. It's just, they're just types. I feel like that's too easy. So they had two types, a file type, which is just the normal file. This is actually probably what the code I needed to look at to figure out how to do some of this. Something tells me this is not a 15-minute task. Block prefix, build view. Image type, does this, oh, it does extend. That's good, I guess. Configure options. Get blocked prefix. All right, so let's add a type. Let's just start winging it. Do I have types yet? I don't. It's interesting. All right, so let's go form type, make form. All right, so let's do make form file type. Name of the entity the new form type will be bound to. Yeah, nope. All right. Okay, let's see here. So add field name. All right, let's just get an idea of what they were doing for this kind of stuff. So configure options, build form type. Was this using a different abstract type? Is that what we're doing? Yep. Build form. All right, let's just take a look at what they're doing here. So builder add. Okay. Type isn't coming in. Here we go. All right, so it's creating a file type, which makes sense. Required is going to come from options required, label, translation domain. I guess I'll just leave that as is. Ooh, there's that transformer. Options allow delete, build delete file. Okay, let's not do this for now. But I do need to see what that transformer was. Transform file, return file to file, reverse trans. I have no idea what this is doing, but something tells me I need it. So I'll add it. So form. I'm not even going to put it in a subdirectory. All right, this is going to implement data transformer interface. I don't know if this is something that has to be done specifically because this is a file type or not, because it's just getting, I guess we have to convert it to an array for some reason. But I don't know which part has to be converted to array, but I guess I'll never know. All right, so file type class required. All right, so how those options are generated is probably something up here. So we've got object, configure options. I want to say that might be something that might be a standard form type thing that gets called if you define it. So let's actually look into abstract type, configure options. Yeah, so its default implementation is to do nothing. So I sort of like some of these defaults that they had anyway, so let's go ahead and do those. Allow delete, true, download link, download URI, true, form label download. Types download link to null callable property path. Okay, it is from the property access. Error bubbling true. All right, so download link option is deprecated. Ain't got to worry about no deprecated things. Download URI. Download link, was that the one that's deprecated? Yeah, so we can actually remove that from here. Translation domain, you know what? Unfortunately, I'm not doing much with translations at all, so I'm just going to leave that out for now. All right, so we have build form, we have configure options, build delete field. Nah. Oh, we do want the file transformer. Configure options, method with same name already defined. Oh. Yeah, if I just looked a little further down in the file, I would have seen that. So we're not going to do anything with the delete field. Most of the content that we have that we're dealing with either exists or it doesn't, which I'm totally fine with. So build delete field, BuildView. Even if I want to change a file or something, I'm not really going to ever do that probably. All right, form view. Form, oh, I should double check that. Form view. Form interface. All right, so object, get parent, get data, vars object, download URI. All right, so that's there. Object, download URI equals this, resolve URI option. So that's is the thing that requires all the other nonsense. True is URI option, is callable. All right, so that's something that we're just going to do differently. So solve URI option, this vars replace vars. So download URL. Label. That's doing a bunch of weird stuff. So I don't even want to do that, I don't think. Let's not worry about that because I'm probably going to manually specify the label anyway. And so download URI, this needs to be doing the same thing that we were doing before to get the URL. So see, that was from the ingest command. We were doing that before. So we want this. We want a constructor. And then here, and this is why I really think this is going to be so much more simple. Download resolve URI option. So that's going to do, let's get the URI. URI option. I just need to return it. This get URL, and then the file. $object. All right, so that's there. What does the get block thing do? Get block. All right, so that's all right, so it returns the prefix of the template block names for this type. So the block prefix defaults to the underscore short class name. So user profile type becomes user profile. All right, so we're gonna do Astrocasts, I guess. Let's do Astrocasts file. So this would become Astrocast file. let's just do Astrocasts. Yeah. All right, so let's reload here. All right, the file property for array. Okay, field scale does not exist. The file property for array keys. All right, let's go back to our easy admin. So label template. I think that means we don't have to worry about this too much. Here we go. So background, template, we'll take the image version. Let's call this Astrocasts file. Somehow, I think that's not right, but let's see. So templates. Place Astrocasts file. All right, so I didn't trigger that automatically. Let's go back into the interface here. So returns the prefix. So user profile type becomes user profile. We are looking at file type. All right, so string the prefix of the template block name. Okay, let's look at get block prefix. Get class this. Oh. So it's not really a prefix. This is literally looking for Astrocasts. Let's do Astrocast file. Wow. Keyboard off by one error. still nothing. Okay. Astrocast file, .html.twig. All right. Oh, actually, no. No. All right, so this is failing entirely, which is not cool, but whatever. Let's try it directly in the easy admin. So let's do template. If I get the same error, I'm feeling certain that it will indicate why this is happening. So we'll do VichUploader audio, Astrocasts file. Awesome. Okay, so this error isn't coming from the easy admin package itself. It's actually coming from in here. So here we're seeing uploader asset item.id. So we need to use where's the scratch? No, we'll just type it in. Asset. We just need to use the function here. I don't need anything else. So item dot, ooh, we do need that. File options dot file property. This could be tricky because I need to do something optional here. So file option, field options, file property. I wonder if I can do this. If I can, this will be happy days. If I can't, this won't be happy days. Because then I'll have to figure out how to do this dynamically. Okay, so file property. Oh. Okay, so that's was that in the original? No. So I need to get the context here. Just do item for now. And it's going to fail because those won't be media instances. Yeah. Let's see if I can do a dump here. Twig dump context. Did not work. Okay, so backend config, field options, item, episode, view, So entity config, field options. So it is looking for background image URL. Properties that. That's not what we want though, so. There, now it's actually looking for background image. Which is right, field name, color name, type option. So we got value. Sweet, okay. So I think all we need to do then, so what I was looking at here is, this is the field options, which is great. I see the episode is the item, and what I was looking for was a value. So value makes sense. So this is the value of this field for this item. So this is actually going to be really easy. We don't have to dig for it at all. Ha, sweet. All right, so we've managed at this point to more or less mimic the existing work for easy admin integration here. Let's see, so let's go back to form. We don't want either of these. So we want number and title and background image. So the only weird thing is I need to figure out how to not have to specify the template here. If I can do that, that would be good. Error could not be converted to a string. Why are you trying to anyway? Background image, templates. Should be using a template. Maybe I have to specify type as a file. Okay, and then I guess that makes sense. We don't want to send it this template. So form data's view is expected to be an instance. Data class option, no. Oh, okay, so now we're looking at the data transformer. File transformer transforms file to file. Expected to be data class option to null. Well, I thought we were close, but I guess we aren't. So form type file, form type image. Alias file. Build form, add file, type file type. I wonder if that's the problem. Type file type class. Still not quite sure what's going on here with this data transformer. It's transforming a file. All right. I might have to call this one done for now and see if I can pick this up again next week. Looked like we were making pretty decent progress up until this point. What's BuildView do? Object equals data object. No. Class option to null. So that's file type, data class null. That's not what they had to do, unless I copied and pasted it wrong. Data class. Ended up not doing anything anyway. Is that a different level? No, file type class. All right, so I think I'm going to call this for now. And maybe sleep on this. So I'm not getting a sense that this is going to be easy to fix, just because set defaults. I'm copying other people's code, which is never a good thing to base everything on. I very specifically don't know what this file transformer is even used for. It's possible this needs to be registered somehow. file type. Form type. Oh. And that doesn't even mean anything either. So that could be where the template's coming from. For entity. Yeah. So the only thing that I'm actually doing here different is I've removed some of the defaults, but the defaults don't seem to matter for the stuff that we're looking at. This download URI normalizer, I don't think it's being triggered anywhere. Build form specifically does not have build form doesn't, I'm not doing anything with the delete button unless build delete field does something weird. Mapped false, translation required false, post submit. So it's not doing anything in build form. It's different. I am adding the transformer, almost positive. Yeah, so add transformer, new file transformer. And that's the file that I would have expected it to open. BuildView seems to be where the problem is coming from. So we get the object from the parent. We set the object for the views, view vars. We set the download URI to null. Those are different things. So if the options that came in have download URI and object, we generate the URI. And at the end of the day, it's complaining. And if I feel like this is exactly the problem we ran into earlier as well. So forms date is expected to be an instance of file, but an instance of app Flysystem is expected. A data class thing isn't working. It's possible this is something that just has broken lately. So symfony class. As you can see here, you must use which file or which file won't work. Wow. So this is what we need to do. What is this? Yeah. At no point in here does it say that. Uploading the files in the edit view thanks to a custom type provided by the bundle. It's pretty straightforward. Yeah, but type equals file. This works as expected. Its behavior is too basic. The best experience, use type. Okay. Let's see if this works. Awesome. This means that auto wiring is not enabled. So for should be though, source star, excluding dependency injection, migration, testing, kernel. So pretty much everything. Too few arguments to function. File type construct. Form registry at line 92. If you're not using AutoY and autoconfigure, register your form as a service manually and tag it with form.type. That's it. First add this. If you're using AutoY, then you don't need to do anything else. No, it's there. You can add it. App form task type. This has not been a good day for this kind of stuff. So let's do interface. Let's see here. How do we enable AutoWire services defaults? Seems like it should already be doing that. Otherwise it wouldn't find it. 0 passed. Oh. Abstract services, not that it should. So the problem is it's not even trying. It's not even trying to use this from this type's name equals this resolve type. It's not trying to get it from the container. It's just newing it outright. Support fully qualified class name, so get type name. Extension has type name, type extension, if not type. Try to get it from there. It doesn't look like auto wiring's actually working here. How was it this worked though? This is actually doing a form type with an alias. It's public true. Wonder if that matters. Wire. Nope. Let's see, use app, Flysystem Asset Manager. This is all just really ridiculous because it's not even going here. Create named. All right, I gotta call it. Thanks for joining. I really have no idea how we're going to resolve this one because I can't figure out why it's not working. Everything that I see here says that this is not able to happen. The form registry is manually calling new name unless there's already an extension that has a type. That's probably it. Type extensions. Where does it get those from? Constructor. Form extension interface. I bet this has one of those hiding in it somewhere. Bundle. Form. I just need to figure out where it's at, but I'm guessing that's probably it. Let's do form extension. Nope. That's the only other way I can see the code can get in there, because if that has an extension, then it could potentially do it. So let's do no. All right, resources config twig formed which file type has extension in it, file name utils. There's probably some magic in here. Load form.xml. Strategy, fix DB driver config. Create name services. Create listener, register form theme as parameter resources. All right. Just want to double check this isn't what I was already looking at. So we have resources, config, forms. Service ID is an alias for that public false. Okay. All right, so yeah, I'll have to double check this some other way. The only thing that I can think of is these extensions. Resolve form factory interface. What's this doing? Something isn't getting this type registered correctly, so it's not able to create this object. I guess I could double check this just to see. Are these arguments or are these setters? Oh, these should be arguments. So which file type? So maybe thinking maybe these were like no, it's constructor. Abstract type. Yeah, I don't know. There's something about which file type that works, including these values. For me, I'm not able to get it to work with it for some reason. The Symfony docs seem to indicate that you can ask for these things in the constructor, and that's all you have to do. If you're using auto wiring and auto configure, then you don't need to do anything else. Symfony will automatically know to pass the correct entity manager to your constructor. If you're not, register your form as a service manually and tag it with form type. I did that. Let's see, let's do one last check. Tags, form type. Arguments. Yeah, still not working. App form file type. Yeah, even if I manually wire this up, it doesn't appear to be working. So I guess I'm going to call it for now. Thanks for watching me stumble through this. If you have any questions, send me an email. I should be back online again in about 2.5 hours for working on the Astrocasts site itself. Otherwise, if you're interested in watching more on rewriting that podcast, episode should start again next Monday. Thanks again. Have a good night.